Yeah, I mean, we definitely see just in the veteran space of offering things to people that you can offer it and veterans will sign up for it and then they just don't show up. You know, it's just like, well, hey, man, like, why did you sign up for something that you could come to that's going to benefit you and then not go through with that and took it away from someone else who really wanted it. And now we couldn't offer it to them either. So I see that quite a bit.
That's gotta be frustrating.
I mean, it can be, you know, but at the same time, like we do it because we love helping people. So
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, you know, and obviously sometimes there's extenuating circumstances or, you know, family emergencies that come up. But, you know, I mean, we do some pretty cool stuff like hunting and, you know, Spurs tickets and, you know, just different things that get people out of the house and enjoying, you know, other veterans or just the family members or just doing something together outside. And, you know, sometimes that can just be, for whatever reason, people just don't go.
Yeah.
It doesn't frustrate me. I know that I did and offered it to someone to go enjoy. And if they weren't smart enough to partake in the activity, then I did my job.
Yeah. Before we get to all that, Mike, tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, what your company is, what you do, where you started, what brought the idea, you know, what branch. Give us all the good stuff.
All right.
Give us some of those cookies.
Get the dirty, the down and the dirty. Okay, here we go. So I'm a 8-year Army combat medic. Went to medic school here at Fort Sam, San Antonio. I spent 8 years as a line medic and 1 deployment to Iraq. And then I went to physical therapy school. I worked at Brooke Army Medical Center in the Center for the Intrepid, rehabbing critically wounded service members from battlefield injuries. I did that for 9 years. And once the height of the war kind of de-escalated, really enjoyed working with wounded service members, but there was less wounded guys coming back, which was a blessing, and just wanted to kind of stay in that space and kind of leaned into more of getting into the nonprofit space and doing more good for guys that were injured. But then, as we know, in the veteran space, there's a lot of veterans who never got injured that still need help. And just as things evolved and just kind of got more into helping all veterans, now even doing like first responders and then doing things for just the community, you know, in San Antonio. So, you know, it's really grown and evolved, kind of morphed into its own thing that never even really thought that it could be. You know, we did a big Christmas drive this past Christmas, you know, and I think we gave out over 235 families and over 700 kids got Christmas toys on Christmas Eve. You know, just wasn't just veterans. It wasn't service members. It wasn't first responders. It was like, if you're in San Antonio and you're in need, show up and we'll give you some toys for your kids for Christmas, you know, and, you know, just kind of became a big thing. And, but, you know, that's kind of some of the stuff that we do, you know, so.
What are some of the programs that you offer vets?
Yeah, so right now we have a woodworking program. So we're in the South Texas VA at Audie Murphy twice a month and doing woodworking there. It's mostly been like wheelchair bound veterans, you know, elderly veterans that are just kind of looking for an outlet, something to do. So we're there. Outside of that, we do woodworking at Twisted Oaks Customs out in Garden Ridge, Texas, and we do that 4 times a month. So Tuesdays and Thursdays every other week, we have a whole wood shop. Jeremy over there runs the program, and you show up and you learn how to woodwork and use all the machines and sanders and saws and all kinds of stuff. And in the past, we've been kind of creating you show up, you learn a little bit, and then you kind of create your own woodworking piece that you take home. And what we're going to transition into is kind of like a 12-step program, I guess, you know. It's like, hi, my name's Mike. I'm a Hoko. No, it's basically just you know, each class is going to be based on like how to use saws, you know, all the different saws.
Right.
Then you're going to come to another class and you're going to learn how to use all the sanders, and
It's going to kind of build off each other.
for sure. And then you actually learn a lot more of the skill set, and then after you do all 12 classes, you're going to then make something, like decide what you want to make, because a lot of times people show up and they're just like, I just want to kind of learn how to do it, and then we figure out what they want to make from there. And it's not kind of what we would like it to be is people coming repetitively. You know, it's like they show up, they learn a few things, they make something, and then they feel like, oh, well, I'm done because I made something. Where, you know, we want woodworking to be therapeutic in value, where they're coming more often and learning more skills to be able to do this outside if they choose to do it at home or go somewhere else, or, you know, it's they've learned the skills to be able to do this throughout the next 5 years or 10 years or, you know, whatever. It's a continual program from there once they have all those skills. But to just show up one day and learn a saw and learn a sander and say, hey, I made this, you know, that's just kind of checking the block, I guess, for me. So, you know, we've developed a program now that's 12 classes, 12 different classes. And then from there we'll evolve. So it's pretty cool.
I'm sure over that too are those 12 classes, like the social network that they're going to start building. Plus they're guaranteed socialization
For sure.
over those 12 classes. Cause I'm sure like that is a piece of the mental health is the isolation piece that can really start beating people up pretty good.
Yeah, and you know, both of the woodworking guys, they're both combat vets. One's a master woodworker, actually went to school for woodworking, and you know, they have the skill set, but then also what they're seeing too is like they're like, man, this has therapeutic value for me. Like I'm meeting new guys, constantly interacting with new people, seeing those people interact while they're in the class. So it's really cool. So I mean, I think everybody's getting value out of it. So it's not just the instructor teaching someone, but they're getting the camaraderie value out of it as well. So,
Yeah, there's something about bringing that brotherhood back together that helps veterans just, you know, in general, you know,
Sure.
it just, you feel better. It feels good. You have someone that you can relate to or talk to, or even just feels like you understand them, or you know, just there's a comfortness around, you know, being around other veterans that you don't find in you know, when you're out in the civilian world, you lose.
Yeah. So, you know, woodworking is a program. We have a boxing class every Wednesday. So we do that from 11:30 to 12:30 over at Randazzo's gym in San Antonio. And, you know, show up. It's kind of like a cardio boxing class. And you do, you know, basic punching and hitting bags and hitting mitts and push-ups and sit-ups and crunches and just basically a 1 hour cardio class, but tailored around boxing. And we're kind of getting to the point where some of these guys have come enough that we're doing some light sparring, I would say. No haymakers or anything like that, but, you know, just being able to just, you know, kind of tap back and forth and kind of get some of that hand-to-hand combat type activity going and getting those competitive juices flowing a little bit.
Right.
I'll go as hard as you go with me, and, you know, somebody goes a little harder with somebody, you know, next thing you know, someone
The ref has to jump in.
yeah. But yeah, so we do that every Wednesday. I mean, if you know, if you're a veteran or service member, first responder, and kind of want to just get back in shape, or just, you know, learn how to throw a punch, or sometimes it's just people that have some anger and aggression issues, you know, and just hitting a bag is you know,
Yeah.
you can picture that boss, or, you know,
You don't go to jail for
whoever.
that.
No, for sure. You know, so, you know, it's a great class. Everybody, there's usually 9 to 15 veterans per class every Wednesday, and it's growing and doing well. And, you know, hopefully, you know, eventually we can expand that program to either offer it more times a week or a month, or, you know, just a bigger class all in all. But we're very tied to the MMA boxing community as well. So I got a lot of buddies that fight. So, it's kind of natural.
Yeah.
And what's the cost for that?
It's free.
Free.
Show up.
Okay.
Your time. That's it.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing, you know, like most of what we do, even like the woodworking class, like the only time that it would cost them anything to participate for that would be like if they wanted to make something really elaborate that we didn't have the wood for, the materials or whatever. It's like, you know, we can only offer so much free, you know, whatever that we can get our hands on. But, you know, if they want to make like a kitchen table, you know, it's like, well, you might have to go buy some of the stuff to make that, but we can make it. It's just, you know, you have to maybe supply some of the materials. But outside of that, there's no cost to participate. Even like our hunting trips, right? Like we do a lot of hunting. Hunting is probably one of our most sought after programs, you know, outdoors, other veterans, campfire, pulling a trigger, smelling that beautiful smell of ammo after it's been rounds been fired, you know, is therapeutic, and guys love it, and we offer it as often as we can. So I just posted today about a coyote hunt that we have.
In Louisiana.
Yeah, thermal coyote hunt up in Louisiana. Great supporters, third shift Predator Solutions. They once a month host a thermal coyote hunt over there, and basically you just show up and they have all the rigs set up. They have the thermals, they have supply the food, the lodging, the ammo, and the transportation. Once you get there, and just go have fun.
Yeah. How many people how many veterans do they take on these trips?
It depends. So like this one that we do over there is it's 2 vets and
Okay.
usually a staff member. We have outdoor staff, so one of them will usually go and just kind of host the hunt to make sure
Right.
the veterans are there having a good time, and if they need anything, that we're there to help supply that. Logan and Timmy over there, the guys that actually do the hunting part of it and do the coyote calling and stuff, like they don't really need us to be there. They could host it on their own, but it's just always nice to have someone, a representative from the organization there, just making sure everybody's having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
How do you go about getting, like, for your wood shop class, the supplies? Is that donated to you, or like how do you go about getting the resources to keep that thing going?
Lots of begging.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We're just professional beggars, kind of out there on the side of the road with the sign, like,
You do all the tricks.
yeah. Flip the flips and the deals and the sign, like, hey, trying to help vets, help us out,
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, it's just networking, just begging and pleading and just explaining to people this is what we're doing and this is how we actually help people. And fortunately for us, we do a good job of taking photos and putting videos together,
Right.
of showcasing how we help people. It's not just, hey, we help people and there's no basis behind it, right? So we do a good good job of showcasing that, and for the most part, people are pretty supportive. So
Yeah.
people want to help. I think it's just a lot of times they don't necessarily know how to help, right? And
Right.
If you can do a good job of showcasing how they can help and meeting the need where you're at, it can be pretty successful.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, they also want to know what the outcome is or what the return is, because, too many times you've seen programs or whatever, and then the help never gets there and they've donated. So they want to make sure, like, so.
For sure. People want to help, and, they just want to know that it's actually being used, right?
Right.
And the what they're donating, whether it's time, money, product, whatever it is actually getting to where it needs to be versus just sitting in a closet somewhere and helping no one, or just money sitting in a bank that helps no one. But fortunately, we do a pretty good job of showcasing that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you've been in and around this world now for what, 14 years?
Yeah, man, don't get me too old, but
Well, you're
about
pretty
10,
old. Yeah, you're
about
pretty
10,
old.
about 10 or so years or so. Yeah, about 10 years in the veteran nonprofit space. And
Have needs evolved, or is it pretty much the need there, or is it kind of flatlining, peaking, dropping? What are you seeing out in the community?
I think it's pretty steady, man. Like, I'd say, since we haven't been at war for the last, however, I guess that's debatable as well, but, the last 20 years, hardcore, war with lots of troops coming back wounded and not on TV. And, it's probably changed a little bit, as I would say. It's that the community is less aware or less in the forefront of knowing that there's a need, because, the guys that served downrange 20 years ago, those people are still struggling. Like, the struggle hasn't changed, or the lack of, this is a whole another ball, but, the lack of VA care, that's still pretty standard, I guess, not to be a whole like political show, but, like, the VA hasn't been great for a long time. So there's been a lot of need for outside organizations to help pick up that slack. So for the veteran, I think the need is either as great, if not greater. But
Well, I think to your point, like, the veterans that from the beginning, middle, of the war, the end of the war, those theaters, like, a lot of those men and women hid behind the things that they were battling and needing support or resources. And now you're starting to see, those those servicemen and women start to come up, to the front line and say, hey, I need help. I'm ready to get help,
Yeah, for sure.
But you're also right. Like the mindset is kind of shift because in the civilian eye, people think we pulled out of theater, we pulled out of Afghanistan, and it's all good. Everything's good. It's over. It's done. There's nothing to worry about. But the reality is we're still dealing with those things. I know the Afghanistan withdrawal in itself
For sure.
triggered a lot of emotion from a lot of veterans.
I mean, we were there for 10 plus years. People served, right? And, to just leave all of a sudden, it's like, well, what was my service for? What was my sacrifice worth it? Right. Like, a lot of veterans in the community were, not happy or just like, why did I do what I did for so long to preserve this way of life and this way of thinking that we were trying to provide for these people, and just to leave and have it be like we never were here,
So it reversed almost immediately.
Yeah. So I mean, I think if anything, the need for support in the veteran community has only increased, because over the years since September 11th, the warfighter and the people that have continued to serve have been underserved. And I think that's just the reality of it. And you have this huge VA system, and you have thousands and thousands of nonprofits that do various different things and do great work in the community, and it's still not enough.
Now, do you think it's not enough, or the resources are underutilized, or the resources are not known about, or a mixture?
I think it's a mixture, but at the same time, whatever stat you're looking at, whether it's 17, 19, 22, whatever number you want to put out on it, veterans are still committing suicide. So until that number's 1 or 2 a day, or until there's an actual huge dent in it, it's not enough, regardless of whether it's they don't know about it or we're not offering it enough or what, however, it's not enough. However, so yeah, I think some of it is veterans are very prideful people, and that we don't want to ask for help. I think that's part of the problem is we feel like we can, it's ingrained in us. It's indoctrinated in us. Like, drive forward, push on. What do you mean you went to sick call? You leg, like all these things, right? Like you're bastardized in the veteran community if you feel like, or show any weakness, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to show weakness. I'm not going to go to sick call because I don't want to be that guy. Like, all of these things that, we're just so ingrained in us that we don't want to go ask for help.
Yeah.
We don't want to be that guy that's like, hey man, I'm struggling. Like whatever, we don't want to ask for help, and then the problem is as a community, just from what I've seen, is by the time that we're ready to ask for the help, we needed help 2 months ago or a month ago.
Yeah.
It's like, I need help, but I need it tomorrow. And it's like, well, bro, like I can't help you tomorrow. I could have helped you 6 weeks ago, or like I could have started the process of helping you 6 weeks ago, but like, it's always the tomorrow or the next day, like it's in such a time span that we ask for the help. It's almost like I can't help you, like I can help you from today going forward, but I can't get you the help by tomorrow. That's just very rare, but by the time a veteran asks for the help, they've needed it for a long time.
Yeah.
And we try to do our best to provide them resources that can provide that help. But, if we can't do it, but, it's just a problem in our community that continues to go unsolved.
Yeah.
I've noticed even in my own life, you usually wait till every resource you personally have is completely exhausted. You're basically at rock bottom.
For sure.
And then you're like, well, crap, I can't hide it.
For sure.
So now I need to raise my hand.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at all the warning signs, that whole time saying, okay, maybe now I should get help. Well, maybe now.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, as organizations that provide the help, right? Like we want to be able to help, but when you give us such a short timeline, it just makes it that much more difficult, and I think if we were better off at asking for the help sooner, that we could prevent a lot of the things from happening that, result in suicide or, just making bad decisions or, you know, drinking, driving, drugs, you know, whatever those vices are that we go to as a community, then we could prevent a lot of the things that end up happening.
Well, you know, and to your point, like we are prideful, you know, we don't, and then, but also it was also instilled in us early on because, you know, in the early 2000s, you didn't say, man, I'm feeling a certain way, or I think I got a TBI, or because all those things would make you look weak.
For sure.
And if you're weak, then you can't lead a fire team, or you can't lead a team, or you're combat ineffective. Now you're, you know, are my stripes going to go because I'm considered weak now? Like, am I going to get demoted, or am I just going to be, you know, left aside? You don't want to look that way. So you just continue to just bury it and bury it and bury it and bury it. So then that is a behavior that you bring outside.
Yeah.
And it just continues on and it continues on.
Yep. No, and that's our great military, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, just how we're, you know, how we're trained, you know, and, you know, I understand why it is that way, because, you know, in a deployed environment, you need to be able to put yesterday behind you and, you know, be able to, you know, wake up and do it again the next day. Right. But for the long term, you know, once you're transitioning out of the military and, you know, once you know, my buddy Mikey says it the best. He's like, the military spends millions of dollars training you how to do your job, and they spend $5 kicking you out the door, you know? You know, so, you know, I think that there probably needs to be some better programs, you know. I mean, obviously everybody goes through TAPS when they're getting out of the military, but it's more of a check the block type of thing than it is actually giving you some skills on like how to write a resume and how to do interviews and mock interviews and how to apply for jobs, you know, like I think that that's what they want it to be, but I don't think that that's necessarily what it is, right?
Well, and then too, like some of that information that they might have in TAPS of the resume writing and the you know, interview techniques and all that stuff, like that stuff is always evolving. You know,
for sure.
And you know, that's what I do in the corporate world is I'm talent acquisition, and that stuff is changed. It's changed so much in the 12 years that I've been on the corporate side. So if you have somebody that's been sitting at TAPS, you know, civil service for 20 plus years, they're not up to date on those things. They're still telling you the old school ways of doing it. It's like, that's not going to help anybody.
Yeah. And it's expedited because there's 40 people in the class it's a 1 week class. And so there's a 4-hour block on resume writing. How much help are you really getting in that?
But also too, like if you're sitting in that class, like, let's be real. A lot of times you're sitting in that class and you're like, I'm getting out. I could care less about this. I just got to sit here for however many hours I got to be here every day so that I can, you know, check the block myself too, you know? So
yeah, I mean, because usually by that point when you're getting out anyway, you're just like, I'm ready to be done.
You check out.
Yeah, I just got to go to this class just to, you know, be able to sign out, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, you know, there could be a better way to transition out of the military provided by the military, but you know, the military looks at it as, well, you're no longer serviceable to us because you're leaving. We're going to focus on these ones that are staying. So, I mean, I get that as it
took me longer to get my email set up than it did for them to deactivate my email.
Oh, for sure.
When I got out, it was gone. Yeah. I was done. My ID didn't work. Like, it was crazy how fast they can terminate you out of a system.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's the only thing they do efficiently.
They kick you out pretty quick. Yeah.
But I say time, like the military does a really good job of building you up to what they need you to be, but they never do a good job. They never set you up for like almost a deprogramming of everything that you've gone through, everything that you've been, everything that you've become. Because then you come into the civilian world and you're lost. And now, you know, we were talking to a man named Brian Esco from Combined Arms, and he's like, the number one thing that veterans struggle with is finding purpose all over again, because now they're just lost in this civilian world. They don't feel like they belong to anything anymore. And that's the number one thing that drags them down. It's like, we talk about it all the time, but what are we doing about it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know what Intrepid Care does, and, you know, like we're trying to be, you know, one of those organizations that provides an outlet and, you know, meets people where they're wanting to be met as well. You know, like we just met with the Soldier Readiness Unit over at Brooke Army Medical Center last week. And, you know, for us as a organization, it's not like these are our programs and this is what we offer. And if we don't offer that, then, you know, we can't help you. You know, my philosophy more is I want to meet the veteran community where they want to be met, right? So if it's skydiving or if it's cooking classes or whatever the need is that the veteran community is saying, hey, this is something that I need and it's therapeutic for me, we want to be able to try to offer that, right? It's not, well, we don't offer that or we don't do that as an organization. Go find someone else. It's like, no, like if this is a need in the community, let's figure out how to provide it, And I think if more people took that approach, then, well, we only do financial assistance. And if we don't do financial assistance, then we can't help you.
Right.
Like now it's like, okay, well, that's where a lot of the negativity comes from, where it's like nonprofits don't help veterans. It's like, well, you only went to one and they just don't do what you're looking for. It's not that nonprofits don't help veterans. It's just you went to one that only offered one thing. And if you don't want that one thing, then you don't know where else to kind of go look. Right. So, and now it's like, by the time I went to go ask for the help from a nonprofit and they didn't help me, now it's, all veterans nonprofits are bad. It's like, well, no, they're not. A lot of them do a lot of great work. It's just, we have to figure out how to, I think meet veterans where they want to be supported a little bit more as well.
Right. And to your point, like not every veteran needs financial assistance.
For sure.
Some of them need just the camaraderie. They just need to get out to one of your classes or a boxing class or just do something different, a hunting.
For sure.
There's different ways of help, and it's not necessarily financial.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there could be better networking amongst the nonprofits in the area of like knowing what each other does and to be able to send, veterans over to different resources?
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's a weird space.
Yeah.
Nonprofit space is a weird space. Everybody's vying for that dollar, So like some people are kind of more secluded and like, no, we do our thing over here and we don't want to play so well over there with you guys. And then, like for us, like we invite other organizations to come to our events and network. And, it's like, if the ultimate end goal is to try to help veterans, it shouldn't matter what the name of the organization helping the veteran is.
Right.
If we're actually helping veterans, that should be the end goal, whether it's a big multi-million-dollar nonprofit or if it's a small little one like ours. It shouldn't matter what that is. We're helping veterans. I think if more people took that approach, then more people would probably get helped.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also I think just looking and understanding where to find help or the resources, right? Because, we find that like even the TBC website, you could go on there and you could find exactly what you're looking for in the county that you're looking for. But how many veterans are actually educated enough, or not educated enough? I don't want to say that are educated to know that website actually exists. And there's a place on the website for them to go find exactly what they need in that area, because there's a plethora of different things on there, but it's almost like it's non-existent. Like I would love to see the the website traffic to that site and understand like how many people are actually visiting that site, how many veterans are visiting that site, and know where to go look in it, because it can be a complicated website as well. There's so much information and stuff on there, but
well, that's I've been doing this for 10 years, right? And I've very rarely gone on the TVC website other than to look for grants, right? So someone that's been doing this for a long time, very involved in the veteran space, has very rarely used that as a resource, right? And probably most other veterans don't know about it at all. Right?
I've learned about it because of this, right? And talking to people and like, oh, really? That's a thing? And then going and looking it up and researching it. And I think that's, just like VA benefits, just like everything, just like TAPS, there's so many resources out there, but the education piece on where for us to know where to go is usually word of mouth. It's usually how you find out about a lot of stuff that exists. And that's the unfortunate piece, is if, especially older vets that may not be tech savvy or have the ability to get on the internet because they're in a rural area or, they're missing out on so many resources. Yeah. You just can't get out to them.
Yeah. And we hear that a lot too, like in the elderly veteran space, the Vietnam kind of era veterans, because, our organization doesn't only help post 9/11. It's open to all veteran service members, National Guard reservists, regardless of how they served, where they served. So you don't have to be a combat veteran. You don't have to be combat injured. So, if you were finance and never deployed and served 4 years and got out, you're just as eligible to participate as the guy kicking indoors that got hit by an IED, just same, right? So, yeah, but it's like, just because you didn't serve in a certain capacity doesn't mean that you still don't need help, right?
Right.
In a lot of times it's like, kind of like, in your neighborhood right here, right? Like where we're at now, it's like, you're a veteran that lives here, right? But, you're surrounded by a bunch of people who probably never served, right? And you can't necessarily go to your next door neighbor and be like, hey man, this one time when I was downrange, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I don't relate to you, right? Like, I can't understand that, right? And, so a lot of it is like finding that sense of community amongst, this big world that's out there once you get outside of the military base, and trying to find those like-minded people that you want to actually do activities with. And then once you find that activity, you just kind of, seem to gel a lot better, and what we've seen is like, you take a slow pitch softball team, for instance, right? Like you guys join a team, you start playing slow pitch softball, and then like your wife comes out to watch, and then another wife comes out to watch, and they start talking, and you actually kind of build your sense of community within the team, because now like, well, so-and-so wants us to come over this weekend for a barbecue, right? And now the kids get together and they go play, and it's like, oh, this was actually kind of fun. Like we did something outside of softball, but softball was the connector,
Right.
And then now you see on social media that they're like 3 times a month, they're all like hanging out together outside of even just the slow pitch softball time. Right. So it's just, they're barbecuing, or they're going to the movies together, or they're, going to a festival, as a group, so you actually create that community within the activity, and you kind of foster that. But if you don't have that pinnacle of things in common to get together, then you never meet each other, and you never that. So.
Yeah. And I think there's something there too, when spouses start to find a community too, because that's a whole different, that's a whole different community in itself that I feel like also needs some sense of support too.
For sure. Yeah. It's, they're the ones that hold it down while we're gone. Right.
Right.
They need that support group just as much as we do, and probably sometimes more so than what we do, because we do get it sometimes, and there are a lot of resources for veterans, but maybe not so much veteran spouses or veteran kids, or, those kinds of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So you all offer, other avenues of support outside of activities as well.
We do as much as we can for as many as we can, I think is the motto. So, yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything specific, I guess, that right off the top of my head, but
There you go, being humble again.
yeah. Man, just,
So I know you've helped vets in needed their electric turned on, needed their water, their rent. I know you've helped with getting furniture for vets.
whatever it is, man, I find a way.
So how does
I mean, usually, somebody will just reach out to me personally, that either is the person in need, or, is someone that knows the situation, that knows that the veteran's not going to ask for the help, and will ask for the help for them. And then we figure it out, whether it's car payment. I've gotten people caught up on car payments in the past. I've kept lights on. I've kept food in refrigerators, just whatever that specific need is, we try to help. Because usually by the time they've asked, they needed it 2 weeks ago, or a month ago, so, so, I mean, whatever it is, we've helped people move, just, hey man, like I need help, 4 people to help me move my furniture out of a 3-bedroom apartment or whatever, move it into a house, and I'll just put a post up on social media like, hey man, we got a veteran in town, needs, some help for a few hours moving some stuff, and who's available to come help, and 6 people show up, and, without those 6 people, that would have been a 12-hour day. Right. But we knock it out in 4 hours with a bunch of help, and, so, I mean, whatever it is, I try to provide that, and not just, obviously we're based in San Antonio, but, even right now we're doing stuff in Laredo, we're doing stuff in RGV, we're doing stuff in College Station, we're doing stuff in Louisiana, Florida, Nebraska, New Mexico. I mean, like I manage kind of a large region of things, and try to provide that help to as many as we can. So
yeah. What does that process look like if a vet needed help and they come to you? Is there any, is there a particular process that you have, or?
I mean, basically, I tell people all the time, like 90% of my job is case management, you know? So, I mean, I actually get on the phone or, you know, message directly with the person that needs the assistance, right? And try to get the background, get the backstory, get, you know, the paperwork, the DD-214 or the, you know, copy of their orders, the, you know, prove that they served or, you know, are currently serving. And, you know, I do all the digging, right? And, you know, for me, it's, you know, putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound only helps you for a brief period, right? So like if you're so far gone financially that me giving you $800 for a car payment only keeps it for another month, like for me, that's not a good financial decision for the organization to give you $800 to only have you not have your car repoed for 90 more days, right? Like if you're so far gone, like that's not a good thing. Like how do we go back to where, like what led to this problem, right? Like let's fix the problem, not let's just put a Band-Aid on it, right? So, you know, and I do all of that. Like I do all of the digging and the, you know, figuring out, you know, where things went left, you know, and then try to get them back on track. So it's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of hard conversations, a lot of, you know, strap your boots up a little tighter and put that ruck on and keep stepping, you know, but at the same time, it's tough love, you know, like, you know, but at the same time, it's realistic, right? It's not painting a pretty picture for someone that is in a really bad spot, you know, it's, you know, so just being smart with how we help and how we provide the support that we do and making sure that if that $800 is only going to help somebody for 30 days, but then I spend $800 over here and it helps them for 365 days, as an organization, it's better to help that person for a year versus somebody for 30, right? And that's kind of how we try to look at it and manage it is, you know, how does the support that we provide help for the long term?
Right, right. Yeah. Short-term fix isn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, I mean, if you know, paying your rent for, you know, 1 month only keeps you there for 30 more days, and then the next 30 days you're back in the same spot where you can't pay your rent, it's probably not the best job for a nonprofit to help you for 30 days, right? It's like, hey man, like I was on short-term disability for whatever because I got hurt in my back and I couldn't work for 2 weeks, but now I'm back healthy and I'm back working. I just need a little help for this 1 month. Okay, that makes sense, right? Because now you're back working, you're going to be able to provide for yourself, you know. But if it's like, I haven't worked for 6 months, you know, and now my house payment is due and I don't have the money and I'm not working, it's like, well, if you're not helping yourself, I can't help you either, you know? And I think that's some of the tough conversations that are happening is, you know, you have to want to be able to help yourself before someone else can step in and kind of take the weight off your shoulders.
Right.
You know, to just sit at home and not work and not do anything and expect just nonprofits to pay for your way, you know, it's not feasible either.
Yeah. Do you see that a lot?
Probably more often than I would like to admit.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, you know, for whatever reason, post 9/11 veterans have the entitled mentality. I think that we probably messed it up a lot with Vietnam veterans when they came home. And I think a lot of people probably had some resentment towards that of we didn't treat these guys, even though we didn't necessarily agree with the war. The guys who were over there fighting it necessarily weren't of that same mentality, right? But they did their job and they protected our country. And when they came home, you know, they were spit on and they were baby killers and they were all of these negative things to where 9/11 happens and towers fell, right? And we take arms and, you know, go fight for our country. We come home and now we're heroes, right? And, you know, oh, you're wounded, so let me give you this. And like we became this whole society of let's just give them whatever they want, right? And I saw it when I worked at the hospital, you know, like these dudes were getting whatever they wanted, you know, and rightfully so. I'm not saying that they didn't deserve it, but at the same time, like it just kind of created a culture of entitlement. And I think that that's a lot of what we see kind of now in the veteran community is like, well, you should offer this to me because I served. You know, it's like, well, I served too, bro. Like, you know, like I'm not saying that I'm entitled to it either, you know? So, you know, I think that, you know, some of those hard conversations have to happen sometimes.
I remember like at the height of the war, it was even on the news, like if an organization didn't give a military discount or if something happened, a bad transaction, but the person was in uniform. Like they would just get blasted. Like how could you, and get that whole council culture stuff, and so I can definitely like see that part of, all the military discounts, and it's great. And I'm glad I got to be part of the generation that was respected for my decisions.
For sure. Yeah.
But
yeah, it just kind of created this culture of, we should be able to get it because we served our country. And it's like, well, no, you should receive, VA benefits and compensation for your injuries and, all of the things that you have, and a retirement if you retired, or, medical compensation for any injuries that you sustained. But outside of that, like, no one owes you anything. Like, you got to go out and create your own, story from there,
Right.
and like, you got to hustle a little bit sometimes, and you got to put in some work, you can't just sit at home and, let people just take care of you. That's just, that's a recipe for disaster. So,
Yeah.
that kind of putting Band-Aids on it will actually only make situations worse. Cause mental health wise, every month you're going through that stress of where am I going to get my next rent check, or am I going to lose my car? Every month just having to relive that stress, I think just adds to the issue.
Yeah.
well, yeah. And, a lot of people would be like, oh man, that guy's an asshole, 'cause he's saying like veterans don't deserve this, and, they got to do it themselves and figure it out. But like in the military, you had to figure it out, no one was there to like coddle you to say like, hey man, you got to be at formation on time, or, you're going to get in trouble. It's like, where you have to be when you have to be there. But now that I transition into the civilian world, like, I'm just going to be a slob out here in society. It's like, I don't know. It's just, I think accountability is one of the things that we lack once we transition, and being accountable for signing up for a hunt and going on it, or signing up for a woodworking class and saying that I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock, and 10:30 rolls around and you haven't called anybody, you haven't shown up, it's just, well, you're offering it to me for free. So if I go, great. If I don't, oh, well, it was free, So I think that we see that kind of sometimes of just, I guess it's kind of an entitled mentality of, well, they're going to offer it to me again next month. So if I don't go this month, then, oh, well, it's like, well, no, like, actually you signed up for that class. You should have shown up. And if you knew you weren't going to show up, you should have called somebody. And then we could have offered it to somebody else who was also wanting that class, and they could have got the therapeutic value out of it, and I just don't think that people think about those kind of things. Well, it was for me and I couldn't make it. So, oh, well,
Yeah.
just got to the mentality.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But at the same time, who's holding them accountable, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no NCO or officer saying, hey man, if you don't do this, we're going to write you a counseling statement, or, we're going to give you extra duty or take your rank. Oh, well, I didn't go.
And the first sergeant's not getting the no-show email and calling them and the supervisor to the office, right?
Right.
No. And, we gladfully, and are grateful to be able to provide what we provide, and we do it because we love to do it and we love to help people. But at the same time, like, you just can't, be taken advantage of all the time either, and just not, just be like, oh, okay, well, you get a pass again. Oh, you didn't show up again. Okay, you get a pass. Like, if you really needed it, you should show up. If you signed up for it and you felt like whatever we're providing is providing you the therapy that you need, and you willfully signed up for it, you should show up, and I don't think that that's too much to ask, I mean, if it was a job, or if it was for your kids or for your spouse or whatever, you would go. So why wouldn't you go do it because an organization is providing it for you? It's just kind of a weird thing, I guess. So,
Yeah. It's weird that people want or say they need some kind of help, and then they just flake, and then don't feel like I owe it to anybody to say anything to anybody. And I guess the reality is that selfless service mentality kind of goes out the window, and we don't think of beyond who else could have benefited from me being there or not being there. It didn't cost me anything, right?
yeah. And, I think that that's, sometimes why programs go away, or people stop offering multiple things because, people sign up and they don't show up. It's just like, well, we put time and effort and resources into providing this, and people don't show up for it. So it's like, why do we keep providing it?
Yeah.
So then then it actually just hurts the veteran community even more, because now we have less resources and less people wanting to help. And, it's just a whole, vicious cycle, I guess, of I don't know if it's like the victim mentality or whatever, but it's like, oh, well, so.
Yeah.
So along those same lines with like programs going away, So for the last, I guess, technically 3.5 years, we ended our war in Afghanistan.
Yep.
We're not really on the news anymore.
Yeah.
It's just kind of done, right? And so have you seen support kind of drop off financially, volunteers? Has that kind of dropped off, or is it still pretty strong in the community?
I'd say it's still pretty strong, the people that want to help and make a difference are still doing it. I will say that, it's, sometimes just getting people to commit to what they commit to can be difficult sometimes. I feel like everybody wants to help and they want to be like, yeah, I'll support that golf tournament, or I'll support that event, or, I'll write a check and sponsor and all that. And then it comes time to actually do it. And it's like, oh man, we can't do it now, or something came up, and, it's just, sometimes just the follow through can be difficult, I think. And I think that that's just kind of prevalent in the nonprofit space regardless,
Right.
But, I think for the most part, there's a lot of good American folks that want to help veterans and service members, and, they're doing it. And, once you find them, you got to hold on to them tightly and don't let them go. And I think that kind of sometimes goes into the why nonprofits don't work with other nonprofits a lot, because once you find some of those supporters, you're like, oh man, like that dude's awesome. I can't let him go help somebody else because he's helping us, so I understand that. But at the same time, the end goal for me has always been helping veterans. And if I can refer someone to go get further help from another organization, please help, it shouldn't be about, oh, well, look at us, we're on a pedestal because we helped someone. Like, I'm by far from that. I'd rather help from the shadows and never know anybody, got helped, and just help them,
Yeah.
And, so I think that sometimes can be why organizations don't kind of commingle a little bit, because, the people who are actually helping and doing fundraising and networking and all of the hard work that goes into running a nonprofit, those people are valuable.
Right. Right. Well, and it's also, it's its own market, its own beast, and its own market in itself, right? Because you've got yourself, you've got other nonprofits, you've got, not just the veteran nonprofits, but you have a plethora of other nonprofits that are all asking those donors for the same, for donations and the same thing to help keep you guys funded.
For sure.
And that's got to be a tough market to be in.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you're asking company A for support, right? Well, they've probably had their door ring 100 times that month, right? Mm-hmm. You go to company B and they've had their door ring 100 times. So, just finding people that share the same like-mindedness of how you help veterans, I think sometimes can be, beneficial. Like obviously we have a hunting program, right? Well, people that, enjoy hunting, people that own land, people in the hunting industry, usually are people that you want to go network with to help supply that more often, right? So, trying to find some of those like-minded folks that like what you provide to the veteran community, like a woodworking program, right? Like people that own lumber companies and, have all these different, different skill sets that in the working with their hands, right, can be a vessel to supply that. So, I don't sit down very often. So, I mean, stay running and stay networking and going to events, and, eventually you find somebody that wants to get involved and figure out how they want to help and try to maximize that to the most potential, I guess. So,
yeah. Where could people find you?
Usually on a street corner with a sign saying help veterans, twirling a sign, No, we're on Facebook, Instagram at Intrepid Care, Intrepid_care on Instagram.
Instagram's weird with their stuff.
It's weird. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. We do the social media thing, and Facebook, Instagram. You can go to our website, intrepidcare.org. But other than that, man, like we're just, out in the community. We have events almost every weekend through April. This weekend we're at the Lowrider Car Show here in San Antonio. It's a big music fest with bouncing cars and zoot suits, and it's on
The Lolo Show.
Lolo Show. Yeah, it's on 98.5 right now. We're one of the people on the flyer, and we actually have one of our great supporters, and this is just goes to show what a great supporter can do. Owns a 1946 Willys Jeep, World War II era, that donated to our organization, and we're raffling it off for $100 a ticket.
Wow!
So we're gonna have it down there, and then the plan is to sell enough tickets to pull the winner on Memorial Day, just to commemorate World War II veterans. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, and
So how can people buy those tickets if they don't go to the Lolo Show?
They can go to our Facebook page, and they can go to our Instagram, and they can Venmo, they can Cash App, they can make a contribution, $100, and we'll put their name in the hat, and we pull all of our raffles live on Facebook. So
because that Jeep is worth like 15 grand or something.
It's like 50 grand.
50 grand.
Yeah, it's completely restored. It still has the original engine in it from 1946. It starts up like it never missed a beat.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So they can get a 50 for $100.
$100, man. Yeah.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat it. So we're gonna be there this weekend. Next weekend we're in College Station. They have this thing called Aggie Fight Night, which is basically a boxing event that pits different fraternities against different fraternities, and they box. And we're gonna be doing some fundraising over there for that. We're a part of that event, and then. Let's see here. April 4th, 5th, and 6th, we're going to be at this event called Car Fest here in San Antonio. It's a 3-day fest of people bringing out old cars. We're helping some veterans get their cars refurbished. So if you think Extreme Makeover Home Edition, it's Extreme Makeover Car Edition. Mm-hmm. And we had...
Who had that show?
Who
was that rapper that had this show?
Exhibit.
Exhibit. There it is.
Yeah. So Pimp My Ride. You know what I'm saying?
There it is.
Yeah. So we're pimping some people's rides,
There you go.
know. So we partnered with CarFest, which is another nonprofit. So it just goes to show that nonprofits can work together. It's just you have to have like-minded individuals who want to help each other, right? And there's value in it for us because we're the veteran nonprofit that got to select 2 veterans to get help and get their cars refurbished. So we're a part of their event, and we're helping market their event, doing all the social media stuff to help their event be more successful. But yeah, we have 2 veterans that we submitted about 30 veterans who reached out to us that needed to get their car, fixed up, operational, so they can provide whatever they need to do for their family or go to work or, and then the committee from CarFest selected 2 veterans that we submitted. And so now they bumper to bumper, getting new tires, getting all the electrical work done, shocks, brakes, struts, bumper to bumper, just whatever's cosmetically wrong with their car, they're getting fixed.
TVs in the trunk and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, man, I think so.
San Antonio, bro. We got to put some hydros.
So, but yeah, so we're a part of that event.
That's awesome.
It's down at the Freeman Expo Hall, 4th, 5th, and 6th of April. And then the next weekend after that, we're back in College Station for a what we call Intrepid Care Fight Night. We actually put on some fighting events, boxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu. So we're doing that over there in College Station that weekend. So a lot of cool stuff.
Ooh, local fight nights too, right? Where you can do like watch parties and
Yeah. We go over to the Fair Oaks Roost and Bernie,
ish.
Yeah, it's right on the cusp of Fair Oaks and Bernie, and so every UFC big card 313 this past weekend, my buddy Justin Gagey, shout out. He won this past weekend, but we were there at the Roost watching the fights with not only veterans but the community, right? The community's there hanging out, drinking some cold adult beverages. But so once a month we have that event, UFC 314. We'll be back over at the Roost, and it's open to the community just to come out and watch fights and hang out and just enjoy watching MMA. So but yeah, and then August the 26th and 27th, because we skip Easter weekend, we have a 7-on-7
April 26th.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
April, not August. See, I'm
like,
getting
that's
ahead
a
of
big
myself.
skip.
I'm getting
That's a
ahead of
big
myself.
skip.
You know, this is because all my days run together.
I was
you know?
like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's a long Easter break,
Telling you,
man.
man. And I need it. You know, I need it. But yeah, April the 26th and 27th, we're doing a youth 7-on-7 football tournament.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, whatever it is, like, if we can supply whatever that outlet is, you know, we try to do it. You know, and obviously it's a fundraiser. It helps us provide more programming. But you know, that's like 6 weeks in a row that full contact fundraising, I guess.
Yeah. Full throttle.
Yeah.
Mike, thanks for being here. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you for
Yeah,
all that
man.
you do for the
Great.
community.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely.